Welcome to the Combat Sports Fighter. Get your tactical blueprints here. Master the science of the fight. Hit subscribe and join us now.
George St-Pierre.
Early mixed martial arts was an unrefined environment. The sport was largely defined by brawlers, chaos, and single-discipline specialists looking for sudden impact. Georges St-Pierre entered this space as an anomaly. He was highly analytical, yet his initial competitive blueprint still relied heavily on aggressive, highlight reel finishes. Engaging in constant firefights exposes a fighter to the inherent mathematical variance of the cage. Pushing forward for a knockout requires taking risks, and one wild swing from an opponent can ruin a flawless game plan. Complacency seeped into his training camp ahead of UFC 69, leading him to underestimate a massive underdog. A veteran named Serra capitalized on those open exchanges during a title defense. This diagram shows the inner ear's vestibular system. During the bout, Serra landed a looping right hook perfectly behind the ear, causing a sudden kinetic disruption that instantly broke St-Pierre's equilibrium. Instead of letting the devastating loss break his confidence, St-Pierre treated the defeat as a diagnostic error. He took the data from that night and entirely rebuilt his approach, engineering a highly calculated, risk-averse tactical system. The core of this new tactical approach bypassed striking power altogether. Despite having no background in competitive scholastic wrestling, he developed a highly systemized grappling code designed to neutralize opponents. The setup relied on mechanical symmetry. The preliminary motion he used to project his lead boxing jab perfectly mirrored the stance shift and hip drop of his double leg takedown. Looking at this formula representing his takedown mechanics, success relies on a strict condition. The time required for his penetration step must be less than the time it takes the opponent to extend a punch. By initiating his drop exactly as the opponent's weight accelerates forward to strike, he exploits their momentum. Their center of gravity is structurally locked, making it physically impossible for them to drop their hips and sprawl in defense. With the target immobilized, St-Pierre generates an explosive horizontal force vector off his rear leg, driving his own mass underneath the incoming punch to capture the opponent's base. If an opponent managed to frame or partially block that initial entry, the system didn't stall. He immediately initiated a coordinated chain of secondary wrestling attacks. These chained takedowns operated in opposing directions. A defended double leg driving toward the left side seamlessly redirected into a high crotch lift pulling toward the right. This tactical software gave St-Pierre a path to bypass the high-variance nature of striking exchanges. By mathematically forcing the fight to the canvas, he could dictate the position and minimize the opportunities for opponents to land a fight-ending strike. Executing that precise tactical code required a highly specialized physical engine. To build it, St-Pierre moved away from the heavy, axial-loading weightlifting popular in early MMA camps. He integrated dedicated gymnastics work. Training on the rings and parallel bars developed profound multiplanar body control and stabilized his joints far better than traditional resistance training. The deep isometric strength required to hold static gymnastic poses directly translated to his top control game. It gave him the core power needed to flatten an opponent's spine against the mat and resist their attempts to sweep. To complement that static holding power with instant acceleration, he utilized short track and field sprint intervals. Pushing off the blocks targeted his fast-twitch muscle fibers, generating the burst needed for his takedown entries. When a severe ACL tear threatened his career in 2011, he adapted his conditioning routine again. He integrated Aqualogic's water resistance training, using hydrostatic pressure to maintain his elite power output without placing compressive loads on his repaired knee. This carefully periodized routine prioritized function over form. He proved that physical preparation in combat sports was an exact science of preserving and optimizing human mechanics, not building an aesthetic physique. Physical tools and tactical plans break down when a fighter panics under pressure. The loss to Serra had exposed severe performance anxiety that required a complete cognitive reconstruction. This dashboard illustrates the Signal Lights protocol, designed by sports psychologist Brian Kane. It gave St-Pierre a framework to actively monitor his emotional state during competition. He learned to recognize when he was drifting out of a calm, optimal green state of flow and slipping toward the distraction of the yellow zone, or worse, the total emotional override and panic of the red zone. To prevent that spiral, he developed a somatic release and refocus routine. A simple physical trigger, like taking a deep diaphragmatic breath or adjusting his gear, served to instantly reboot his neural state back to a calm focus. He also eliminated outcome-oriented anxiety. Instead of focusing on massive, distant objectives, like winning back the championship belt, he restricted his attention exclusively to the immediate task, surviving the current round or executing the next technical sequence. This psychological operating system allowed St-Pierre to function effectively under the weight of his own performance anxiety. He built a repeatable process to manage the friction of the octagon, evolving into a calculating strategist who could execute his plan regardless of the stakes. The output of this fully integrated system yielded staggering results. He navigated the most competitive era of the welterweight division while sustaining minimal physical damage. Over a 4-year stretch from 2007 to 2011, he won an astonishing 33 consecutive rounds without dropping a single one to an opponent. By systematically analyzing his errors, he achieved a perfect record of redemption, returning to avenge every single defeat of his professional career against towering divisional icons. He racked up 13 victories in UFC title bouts, securing his undisputed status at the top of the 170-pound weight class. Outside the cage, he carried the banner for French-Canadian sports fans and anchored his global brand in traditional martial arts respect, refusing to engage in the hostile trash talk that often permeated the sport. Georges St-Pierre's career demonstrated that the high-stakes environment of mixed martial arts could be navigated through engineering and logic. He left behind a blueprint for the sport, proving that a hyper-optimized and disciplined system could consistently triumph in an arena defined by chaos.